After King Von got gunned down outside that hookah lounge, his people rushed him to the ER, but what followed wasn't some quiet battle to survive, according to his cousin. Von pulled through 2 major surgeries and then everything went sinister fast. Supposito had 3 surgeries he made. Through 2, he hopped off the bed after the second surgery and start fights, supposedly now newly leaked surveillance footage from Van's final moments has hit the internet, and what it reveals is wilder than anyone could have imagined. The final hours of King Van's life, they weren't calm and they weren't clean. On the go, early morning of November 6, 2020, the rap game lost a monster in the streets. Chicago's religion King Von, after he was gunned down in front of Atlanta's Monaco hookah lounge, but what fans never saw was what really went down in that hospital room while cameras outside caught the chaos of gunfire and bloodshed. What went down inside the emergency ward was a meeting out of a drill. Mithra unreland deployed starving for years. The real story stayed buried until a man named Bod dropped a bombshell that tore through the hip-hop world like a bullet, according to a Reddit post from March 18, 2025. Titled "Bo Explains How King Von Died During Surgery," over 400 upvotes and 300 shocked replies poured in as fans tried to make sense of what they read. Bo claimed that Von didn't fade away in silence, even while doctors were fighting to save his life. Von's survival instincts kicked in that same fire that earned him his name and blacklit up one last time, a world star. Hip-hop post from March 2025 went even further, alleging that Von actually woke up mid-surgery, fueled by pure adrenaline, and leaped off the operating table like he was back on the block. He had 3 surgeries, but he made it. He was supposed to have 3 surgeries. He made it through to he hopped off the bed after the second surgery and started fight. Supposedly stopped fighting the nurse, and as in what feels like something ripped straight from his own lyrics, Vaughan allegedly turned on the hospital staff, manding his gun back, refusing to deal without a fight, still locked in survival mode. Despite his body being torn apart by bullets, Van's instinct was to reach for heat, according to be that last act of rebellion. A final middle finger to death self is what ultimately killed him. Not just the gunshot wounds, but the pure physical rage and refusal to surrender pushed his body beyond the edge. Their assault. Cardiac shock, total collapse. The internet erupted. One fan wrote, "That is most Van thing I've ever heard. Did how he lived a real soldier." Another said he was looking for his pole in Theodem's surgery room. That's why. Bro was the most feared, period. The story caught fire fast across social media, and by mid-2025, it had been shared thousands of times with fans, dissecting every detail of Van's alleged final stand. But to understand why this version of events resonates so deeply, you got to understand who King Von really was. Born Devin Bennett Von wasn't just some rapper with bars. He was a walking legend in the drill scene, known in the streets of Chicago long before the music industry ever learned his namahas. Bond with Lil Durk's F Crew only elevated his reach, but Von had already built his rep in a block. Through raw presence, street code, and loyalty. He dropped tracks like Crazy Story and took her to the Uno. Fans didn't just hear lyrics, they heard truth, lived truth's care. Ruth scared. Ruth Von embodied that untamed Chicago energy, no filter, no gimmicks, just a man who rapped exactly how he lived, wild, relentless, and fearless. That's why this story doesn't feel far-fetched to his fan base. It fits his legacy like a puzzle piece. According to those closest to him, Von carried thought, same voltage in real life. He wasn't pretending. So when people hear that he might have gone out throwing fists at doctors, demanding his strap-back barrel everything, but still ready to slide, they didn't doubt it. They saluted. But her rest tragedy, that very mindset may have killed him. Van died fighting. Yes, but that fight, heartbreaking as it is, was also a battle his body couldn't serve a 'cause he went into shock. So I'm guessing if he would just laid there, he probably would have for the loyal ones woe followed. Van through every Lyrisfairy headline and every war, this moment became more than a story. It became a legend, a myth, carved into digital stone. Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram blew up with tributes. People weren't just mourning. They were mythologizing. Van really jumped off the operating table looking for his gun. One post read, "That's not a rapper, that's a warrior," others wrote. "They say he didn't just die. He went out ready to slide. That's why the ops feared him. Even dying, he was dangerous." And just like that, a new chapter in drill folklore was born. Artists started weaving this scene into their bars, lines about Van springing off surgery bed, hunting for the pole, and leaving the world like he entered it on attack mode. Medical professionals might scoff. They might say, "It's not possible to regain consciousness like that after trauma." But logic has no place in the mythos of the streets, because, in Thurled, Vaughn lived in realness, was more real than reality. In Chicago's Oblak and beyond, this scene has become untouchable. It's painted on murals, referenced in tribute songs, and talked about in hushed reverentness. Leave toy guns and makeshift shrinnies, not as a joke, but as a salute, a salutato, the man who, according to legend, Trito, reached for his peace in his final breaths. That visual, King Von rising off a hospital bed, refusing to die quietly, has become more iconic than any album cover he ever dropped. One comment said it all: "They ain't dropped that charges 'cause they had proof. Nah, they dropped them 'cause even the system knew Vaughn was built different." Man didn't die from bullets. He died from being too real, whether or not you believe Boozy shilling account. One thing is clear: this narrative transformed Vaughn from an artist into an eternal figure, the finament of his life, not one of fear but of fire for his fans. This wasn't just another tragic end. It was the perfect last scene for a man who walked the talk until his very last heartbeat. The buzz didn't stop there. On March 19, 2025, World Star Hip Hop lit the internet on fire with a headline that read, "King Von reportedly died after jumping out of hospital bed to fight staff post-surgery." The timing chilling because just hours later, Reddit was set ablaze. A thread titled "Bo explains how King Von died during surgery." The comment section exploded, hundreds of replies, thousands of upvotes. Everyone had an opinion, everyone had a theory. And on April 10, 2025, a YouTube video claiming to show actual footage of the Allegheny hospital chaos dropped like a nuclear bomb. No surprise, it went viral instantly. But let's get one thing straight: none of these clips showed any real footage, no security cam, no raw hospital tapes, just overly slowed down interviews, looped music video scenes. But that didn't stop story from spreading like gospel, because, in the digital age, perception is prophecy, and Van's legend was too loud to fact-check. But to understand through it of this legend, we have to go back, way back, because Vaughn didn't just become a name in a headline. He was forged in the fire of industry, rivalries, and street-coded alliances that run deeper than most fans can even imagine. Doug Bennett, known to the world as King Von, rose up from the war-torn concrete of Chicago's Chusclees. Ulak, he wasn't just a rapper, he was Lil Durk's chosen own, officially signing to the Family label in 2018. Meanwhile, miles away in Savannah, Georgia, a young rapper named Quandarando, real name Takawi N. Bowman, was gleaming the ranks under NBA Young Boys Never Broke Again collective. At first glance, it looked like competition, but it wasn't just about who had the hottest verse. It was about what side of the line you stood on, because in the unspoken war between F and NBA, loyalty wasn't just expected, it was enforced. That Cold War had been building for years, fueled by subtle jabs, coded lyrics, and growing tension between Dirk and Youngboy and Von. He was the frontliner who never shied away from sending a message. In 2018, the pressure began to rise. King Von jumped on Instagram Live, straight up clowning NBA Youngboy's credibility. What the F? A young boy talking about? He said he talking crazy, he ain't even like. That cap, it wasn't slick, it wasn't shaded, it was direct warfare. Now in Mostrop circles, that's just bravado, but in high-stakes, trigger-ready world afdrill. Music shots like that don't fatty the fester, they grow and they wait to strike back. What made it all more chilling was Van's own reflection days before his death in a rare sit-down. He shrugged off the beef, saying, "Ain't no reppy beef, ain't no real beef unless somebody got shot." Those words would ho like prophecy, because on November 6, 2020 at 4 o'clock, a.m. outside Monaco Hookah Lounge in Atlanta, someone did that night didn't feel scripted, it felt cursed. Van and his crew were walking out relaxed, then they spotted Quando Rondo scamp. One glance, one moment, one fatal spark. Surveillance footage, since seen by millions, shows it clearly. Van stepped forward, no hesitation, no backup needed, as scuffle erupted, blows landed, swallowed the parking lot, and within seconds the feud that had been simmering for years ignited into full-blown tragedy. The parking lot turned into a war zone within seconds. Fists flew and then gunshots rang out. One of the shooters, latter identified as Timothy Lulu, Tim Leaks, AC known affiliate, Ofuando. Rondo emerged from behind an SUV and opened fire. King Von was hit multiple times right there in that initial crossfire. Before police could even intervene, by the time it was over, 6 men were shot and 3 were pronounced dead, including Von and his associate, Mark Blakely, another young man from Chicago who didn't make it home that night. What made this bloodshed even more complicated, both off-duty and on-duty Atlanta PD officers were already in Theria. They fired back in an effort to stop the chaos, but reports later confirmed it wasn't police bullets that hit Vaughn, it was civilian gunfire. That comes from years of street politics boiling over in public. After the shootout, Vaughn was rushed to a hospital, not by ambulance, but by private TV vehicle. The urgency was real, but it was too late. The young voice of Chicago drill, just 26 years old, was silent. Spare he ever got a chance to finish his own story. The legal system didn't waste time. On November 7, 2020, just one day after the deadly shootout, Timothy Leaks was arrested and charged with felony murder in connection to Von Skilling. Ironically, Leaks was still covering from his own gunshot once arrested, while lying in a hospital bed at Grady Memorial. At first, Atlanta padacked like it was case closed. The arrest was swift. The charges were loud. Every onismed Leaks would go down for the murder. But then the plot twisted. Despite the seriousness of the crime, felony murder being on bond blounder Georgia law, Leaks' legal ambled off the unthinkable. March 27, 2021, a judge granted him $100. Zero bond, allowing him to walk free while awaiting trial. The streets Arab Tedvin's crew wasn't having it. Lil Raisonné, of Van's longtime allies, fired back with a threat that echoed across social media: "We go and roll his ass up real soon." And the mess didn't stop there. As investigators dug deeper, more names started falling. Johnny Harris booked for illegal firearm possession. Kevin Jones shit with aggravated assault charges. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation Content looking into the role of the officers. But for fans and the public, one name stayed center stage: Lol Tim. Then came the bombshell that nobody saw coming. August 2023, without warning, the felony murder charge against Tim O'Delix was dismissed, not reduced, dismissed before trial, before indictment. Justice's lawyer Noah Pinnis confirmed the decision, but the district attorney's office never explained why. Nostament no press conference, just silence, and that silence, it became megasoline. This wasn't just a murder casino more, it had morphed into a cultural inferno, one that would blaze across YouTube, Spotify, and the streets of Atlanta, Chicago, and Savannah. Diss tracks, like artillery fans, drew battle lines. Allegiances hardened, and the two camps F and NBA went from tension to open warfare. Wando made the first move in Thiftamoth, November 20, 2020. He dropped Off story, a track that took direct aim at public perception in the track, he framed the entire incident. A self-defense, spitting look at the footage. That's all the evidence held. Have ran up on me, but it wasn't just what he said, it was that end off story. It felt like a taunt, a line drawn, blood asterisk, Quando doubled down months later, in April 2021 interview with Angela Ye had claimed he was asleep in the car and didn't even know it was Vaughn until the next day. I never in life had words with him. He said he even denied trying to snatch Van's chain, a rumor that had exploded online, but his innocency campaign didn't land with everyone. In fact, many saw it as disrespect, disguise it as denial. On April 3, 2021, during a virtual contest, Quando threw gasoline on the fire rapping, he got caught without that whole I'll piss on his grave. The crowd was stunned, the internet exploded. But the most chilling moment came when Quando bought a diamond-encrusted watch for Lulem, his way off saying, "I stand with you." DJ Academics boasted the clip fans lost their minds. This wasn't grief, this was celebration. Lil Durk, Van's brother-in-arms, kept his cool. At first his responses were coded subliminal, but as time passed and Quando kept talking, Durk turned up the heat. His music grew darker, sharper, focused. Azalent War became very loud, and then it spread. By 2022, the conflict between Vaughn and Quando had grown into something bigger. This wasn't just a personal beef anymore. It was a clash of empires. NBA young boys camp stood firmly behind Quando. Lil Durk's camp was gearing for war. Then came the spark that nearly lit the entire industry on fire. January 2022. NBA Youngboy drops Bring the Hookah track that openly disrespects Van's death and even mocks Ovlock. This That's Quid Game. O Block Pack, Get Rolled Up. The gloves were off. Durk struck back instantly in his track. Aha, he didn't mince words, act like they real. But since Ami Brody died, we know the truth. War was now officially two-sided, and it was leaking out of studios and in Tath streets. The war didn't stop at diss tracks or street level gunfire. On May 3 RD 22-1. Wando Rondo barely escaped with his life after shots rang out in Black Sherriger, a moment that made it clear those streets hadn't forgotten King Von Boots. A real eruption came over a year later. August 19, 2022, everything changed. Time it wasn't just another shootout, it was a statement. Quando was ambushed in Los Angeles, and this time his cousin, Savia Robinson, known in the streets as Lil Pab, was killed. Blood for blood. Fans of Van's movement celebrate TD Cross forums and live streams. One affiliate Brick Baby didn't mince words. The can't say slide for Vaughn no marined. That's when the streets went silent. Becco's behind the scenes, something darker was taking form. A retaliation theory had been floating for months, but what no one saw coming was that this death would spark a federal storm. What started as rap beef now carried threat of murder for hire charges. In October 2024, just shy of the 4-year anniversary of Van's death, everything exploded. Durk was arrested in Florida by US Marshals on sweeping federal charges. Prosecutors claimed Durk wasn't just emotionally invested, he was the mastermind behind the hit that killed Lily Pub, according to the indictment filed EOS District Court Los Angeles. Durk legally funded and organized the entire operation. This wasn't spontaneous. This was premeditated, calculated. Prosecutors accused him of paying 5 known associates, Kayvon London, Doandra Don, Trell Wilson, Keith Jones, David Lindsay, and Asa Houston to travel from Chicago to LA to carry out the assassination, and the recites stealthing agents presented credit card records tied to Durk's camp for travel expenses, encrypted text messages like "Don't book no flights" under no names involved. Whitney, location data confirming Durk was in San Fernando Valley on the day off hit. But the most damning evidence was alleged attempt to flee the country. Once his people were picked up, booked flights to Dubai, Switzerland, and Italy. were shown in court as signs of consciousness. Of guilt, charges were stacked: conspiracy to commit, murder for hire, murder for hire, resulting in death, use of interstitialities. To commit murder, use of a machine gun during a violent act. Thieves weren't playing. If convicted, Dirk faces life in prison or even the death penalty. His trial, originally scheduled for January 2025, was delayed to October 14, 2025. Citing the massive volume of evidence, 230+ gigabytes of digital files, and over 20 pages of investigative reports adding fuel to the fire. In February 2025, Lil Pab's mother, Andrea Chella Robinson, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against Quickle, Dirk, his business manager, and a third-party entertainment company. The civil and criminal walls were now closing in from both sides. Dirk's lawyers struck back hard. They accused prosecutors of relying on fan-made YouTube videos, edited interviews, and even rap lyrics as evidence. That's where this story shifted again from a murder case to a national legal debate. Dirk's defense team argued that using lyrics as courtroom evidence is unconstitutional, racially biased, and sets a dangerous precedent for all hip-hop artists. Legal experts weighed in, warning that this practice, disproportion shown, not affects black musicians, blurs the line between art and intent. But while the legal world wrestled with that argument, the human cost remained. Dundonal Vaughn was gone at 26. Lil Pab was killed in his cousin's arms. Wanda served 2 near-death ambushes, and now Dirk, a Billboard topping artist, was looking down the barrel of a life sentence. And yet, in the midst of chaos came something next. Just 3 days after Dirk's arrest, Wanda Rondo posted a cryptic Instagram story. It featured a black and white promo for a new track titled Life Goes On, alongside a caption that stunned his fan base: "We didn't come into this game to die in it. I've lost too much. Forgiveness ain't weakness. It's serve prayers up for everyone involved." I never mentioned Dirk by name, but the message was loud and clear. It felt like he had ceased fire, a desperate breath in a war thought had left too many bodies behind. And for once, people listened. Industry insiders, fans, and even rival artists began talking. Was Rondo trying to de-escalate? Had the loss of his cousin's ongoing bloodshed and the haunting shadow of Van's death finally pushed him to the edge, whether genuine or strategicide? Was a shift, but make no mistake, this feud isn't over with. Dirk facing a high-profile federal trial, this saga will dominate headlines for months, if not years. The violence may go quiet, but tensions still crackling like a wire, ready to snap any move, any disc cold ignite the fire. And as fans, bloggers, and even politicians weigh in, one truth hangs in the air: the line between music and murder has never been thinner. So how do we do with a story like this? One, rap lyrics become blueprints when rivals spill out of studios into cemeteries. When fame becomes a prize, Hinsel Vaughn's legacy cemented Rondo's Fateshiki. Dirk's future, balancing between freedom and federal time.